And hello, everybody. Welcome to Sister to Sister. This is Trish Carr with Women's Prosperity Network, and it is my pleasure to be here each week to bring you a wonderful guest who can share her experience about what it's like to be a Black woman in America right now in these times. And I'm so excited to have today Lynn Whitfield. And Lynn, I'm just really honored that you could be here with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Lynn. First of all, she's a graduate of the University of Miami School of Law. And you know I'm a big Hurricane fan. That's right. That was a great game. We killed it on Saturday, so that was awesome. And she's been practicing law in South Florida for a lot of years, a lot of years. If I said 40 years, you wouldn't believe it because the woman doesn't look anywhere near old enough to be having practiced for 40 years, but it's been a long time. And she started her legal career as an assistant state attorney. So she worked within the system. She came to Palm Beach County in 1985 and began working for the public defender of Palm Beach. So again, another job that put her right in the forefront of everything that's going on for individuals in our counties. She's also been the assistant city attorney for the city of West Palm Beach. And after 7 years doing that, she opened her own practice specializing in criminal defense and municipal law. Not only that, she's been city attorney for North Miami and Hallandale Beach as well. And she's appeared as a legal commentator for many different channels here in the South Florida area. So she's one of those people that you see on TV who's sharing legal opinions. She's lectured to national, state, local organizations. She's been honored by numerous national, state, and local organizations for community and professional services. She's currently pivoting from practicing attorney from being a practicing attorney for 40 years to a trial advocacy coach and life coach for attorneys who deal with the stress of the profession. And I imagine there's a lot of stress in that profession, right?
Yes, there is a lot.
Yeah, well, they need you, I know. And in terms of being a trial advocacy coach, what does that mean?
Actually, what that is training attorneys to be better trial attorneys and improving their skills while they're in the courtroom. But
great.
I'm in the middle of the pivot. God pivoted me another way. I knew I was going to be working with training attorneys, but with my current position with election protection, I'm training them how to protect the rights of voters. So I'm still in the training area for attorneys, but God will pivot you sometimes. So.
Well, election protection, tell me more about that.
Well, what election protection is, it's a nonpartisan effort to ensure that every voter who wants to vote has their rights protected and are able to cast their ballot. So we're very concerned this year with voter suppression. We've seen some things that have been happening. So we are galvanizing a lot of civic organizations together to do voter education, voter awareness, also to provide lawyers on the ground. So if people have problems, people go to precincts and they're told they can't vote, they have to cast a provisional vote. Our goal is that no one has to cast a provisional vote. We are going to have people there to answer questions, a hotline on the ground at the polls, and we also have lawyers standing by to file lawsuits if necessary, to ensure that everyone gets to vote.
Wow, Lynn, I'm so happy to hear that because in my lifetime, and I've been voting for a long time, I have never seen the voter suppression and the gerrymandering and the real fear tactics that are happening right now in terms of whether or not is it really safe to vote by mail, or is every mailing vote going to be questioned? The closing of polls so that thousands of people have to go to one polling place. Literally, I have never seen these things in my lifetime.
And what we are finding, Tricia, is that a lot of that is going on in the communities where the people have been marginalized anyway in the past. So That's why we think it's so important that people volunteer when they can. If they can be a poll watcher, if they can be a poll monitor who's outside, if they can work a hotline and answer questions that people may have. It's just amazing with this mail-in ballot situation now. A lot of people don't know that there's no difference between an absentee ballot and a mail-in ballot. They're the same exact thing, and they've been using them for years.
Yeah, I've been voting that way for many years.
But all of a sudden, it's being blown up like it's such a problem to have people mailing in their ballots. So some of the things that we're talking about with voter awareness is your signature has to match the signature you have on file with the voter registration. Well, that's really difficult when you're talking about the elderly, because, as you know, I looked at something I signed when I was 15. My signature now looks nothing like that. So the older we get, our signatures tend to change.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that people this year are going to probably be excited about voting. So they're going to want to write something on the ballot. Well, if you do that, your ballot's going to be thrown away, because any marks on your ballot other than the mark you make for whoever you're voting for, the machine can't read it. So it would discard that ballot. We're telling people to make sure they sign the outside envelope that they are given, that their signature has to appear. And if you're in a state where you're required to have a witness to your signature, make sure you have that. And husband and wives, don't put your ballot in the same envelope.
Oh, no.
Yes, people are doing that. And if you fear the mail, because we know the scanning machines have been taken out, things of that nature, sorting machines, there will be drop boxes. Most supervisors of elections are providing what they're called drop boxes. Those are boxes that will be controlled by the supervisor of the election in the area. You can take your ballot right there, drop it in. They'll be the ones that pick it up. So you don't have to worry about the U.S. Postal Service delaying the delivery.
Great. There's so many questions about it, and I'm so happy to hear that there's a nonpartisan organization behind this, because, politics is what ruins everything. It's like we all have a right to vote, whoever we choose to vote for, and it should be an easy thing to do. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a part of that.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of work, but I'm enjoying it.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. And, one of the things that I love about what you're up to is you're on Facebook posting since Black Lives Matter, really back in May. I've been seeing more and more of you sharing about your experience and what you think about what's happening now. So I would love for you to share with our audience an experience of yours that perhaps might open people's eyes and hearts to what it's like to live in your skin.
Well, Trish, my first actual memory of realizing that there was a difference in society between Blacks and whites. I mean, I could tell, you're real little, you see people don't look the same as you, but,
Right.
The landlord, he was lighter than you and things of that nature, but the impact of it wasn't that great. But then we moved into a little suburb outside of Cleveland called East Cleveland, Ohio. And we were living with my aunt and uncle because my mother had passed. And I was 6 years old. And I remember when we moved in, there were like 3 other Black families on our street. And then within months, all the white families started moving out. And I remember asking my aunt, why? Why is everybody moving? We just moved here. And she explained to me that they did not want to live around Black people. So you have to understand, so if I was 6, this is 1961. And so I was just shocked because I was like, wow, we good people. Ain't nothing wrong with us. Why don't they want to live? It was too hard for her to really try to explain it to me at that point in time. But when my sister went to the same high school I did. She graduated five years before me. when she graduated, the school was like 80% white, 20% black. When I graduated, the school was 90% black and 10% white. I mean, that fast, in 5 years, the neighborhood changed that quickly. And
Wow.
I had a friend who was an Italian lady, and I remember she left the school like in our 10th grade, after 10th grade, and she went to an all-girls Catholic school that was predominantly white
Right.
for a semester. And then she came back. And she was like, I can't go to school there. It's like, well, what was it like? And she said, they kept saying, like, you really like live next door to black people? Are you okay with that? And things. And so she couldn't take it because she had been with us since junior high school. And she realized we were all the same. So when I decided to go to Brandeis, that was a rude cultural awakening for me. And, you know, Brandeis being a Jewish institution, like to pride themselves on being extremely liberal. And they were very liberal in their way of thinking, but it did not mean that racism didn't exist on the campus because there's people coming from everywhere. And to be honest with you, I was guilty of a little bit of that prejudice myself because I didn't want to have a white roommate.
Mm.
Because I didn't know. I had grown up around black people primarily for all my life. And so I was, a little militant at the time. I had gone through the riots of the 60s, seeing the National Guard drive down the street with their guns and everything in the riot time. So I didn't want to have a white roommate. And we did switch. Later, I wish I had her because, her and I became friends and everything. But those kind of things on both sides. And it was really a lack of understanding for me.
Isn't it always?
Yes, that's what it boils down to. But I know you wanted me to share some other kind of experiences. I'm a lawyer, as you said, and I've been blessed to have gotten a good education, Brandeis and University of Miami. But I have been in court. And I have had people ask me if I was the court reporter. Nothing wrong with being a court reporter, but I worked hard to get this law degree. So I kind of like to be acknowledged for being the lawyer I am, and not to immediately walk into a courtroom and see a black female and think that she can't be a lawyer. And I remember one time, I had been practicing for many years by then, and I was in the courtroom early, waiting for the judge to come in and everybody to come in. I had a hearing that afternoon. And a lawyer walked in and he started asking me questions. Well, does the judge do this, this, and this? And I was like, I don't know. And he asked me another question. I don't know. He said, well, aren't you the clerk?
Yeah.
I said, no. But one of the things I've learned, Trish, is I won't tell them who I am. And I didn't say a word about who I was. I didn't, I'm not the clerk. So when the judge came in and said, Attorney Whitfield, do you have a matter before me? And I stepped to the podium and said, yes, Your Honor, I do, and handle my business. When I left out, he came running after me, apologizing.
Wow, that's great.
That he did that. And my comment was just, well, next time, think about it. And maybe you won't be so quick to make that assumption when you see a black woman dressed like a lawyer with a briefcase and just automatically think that they could not be.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the kind of, situations. Or one of my pet peeves is when people say, oh, you're so articulate.
I know.
Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to be able to speak English and get your point across because you're a black woman.
Yeah, I did graduate from high school, college, and law school. I need to be articulate. Okay, this is what I do. I do trials. So I have to be articulate. But I'm going to tell you another situation that actually came from a black person. In 1995, I used to wear my hair in braids, not locks like it is now, but braids down. I had a black judge say, I don't think you should do that because you do jury trials and you got to be able to persuade the jurors, and I don't think they're going to be accepting of you because of your hairstyle.
Okay.
And my thing was, well, I'm hoping that what I'm saying is going to be a little more important to them than how my hair looks. But, so I think he was a much older judge. And because of what he had experienced in his lifetime, the unacceptance,
He was
he,
looking out for you in his way.
right, he was, because he was trying to say, and my thing was, they'll never accept it if we don't kind of push it. If we're always willing to change.
And willing to assimilate. That's really what it is.
Exactly, because that's what they want you to do. So one of my pet peeves now, and notice it, you probably have never even noticed it. If you look at the news media, if you look at most of the Black women on the news media have straight long hair.
Right.
They're trying to get them to, and I've asked, is that like required of you? Is it your fear of not getting the position? Because they want a certain image on the camera.
Right.
We have a few that have bucked it, but not many. So that's one of my things when I look at it now. I say, would y'all just please, somebody else just buck it, wear your hair locked and do something.
Well, it's coming though. You know that I just saw, it used to be called the Crown Law.
Yeah.
It was just passed. So
California and New York.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like children are being sent home from school because they have their hair in braids or they have their hair in what would be traditionally Black styles. And that's what's being bucked now. So I think you're going to start to see it. But what you're talking about is so pervasive. It's what we want America to look like.
Exactly.
And sound like.
Exactly. I was in high school, actually, one of my friends who went to that all-girls Catholic school, young Black woman, though, she got sent home with a note saying that her hair was causing a disturbance in the hallway because she had a big afro. So we just would laugh at things like that. But it's still the fact that that was in the 70s, and here we are in 2020,
Still
and we're
happening.
still dealing with that issue.
Yes.
I think probably the one that really incident that stuck with me the most and really kind of hurt me was in 2000. I think it was 2000 or 2001. I argued a case before the Florida Supreme Court. It was my very first time arguing before the Supreme Court. For a lawyer, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
You go to any of your state Supreme Courts or the U.S. Supreme Court is even bigger, but arguing before the Florida Supreme Court. And here I stayed in Tallahassee overnight. I was at the Governor's Inn, one of their top hotels there. I came down, it was December, I had on my wool pinstripe suit and a little scarf around my neck. I thought I was doing it. Here I am. I'm so proud to be before the Supreme Court. And I went into the breakfast room and a woman came up to me and said, do y'all have any fruit in the back room? And I just looked at her, and because I think I have a little quick wit, I said, oh, I didn't know this was the uniform for the wait staff today. I wouldn't have worn it because I surely would not want to have been confused with them today. Then I'm going to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And that's the one, it was like, it doesn't even matter. Lynn, you worked hard, you've done all of this. It doesn't even matter. She still sees you as only somebody who could be a waitress.
Yeah. And it was from another woman at that.
It was from another woman. Yeah, but I think those are some of the things that we have to get past. When we look at people and immediately, because that's what prejudice means, prejudging. When you look at somebody and think that there's no way they could be anything other than your servant. I mean, that's, or when you don't see them. When I'm in line and somebody walks up to the counter in front of me and just starts talking to the salesperson as if I'm not there.
Mm.
My response is, I didn't mean to take my invisible pill today, but obviously I did by mistake because obviously I'm invisible. But I fought the clerks too, because it's really on them to say, excuse me, I'm waiting on this person.
Yeah.
Excuse me, she's here. And you'll see it sometimes, but I think that's something that comes with training of your customer service
Well,
training.
it's also socialization.
Right,
It's also how we're socialized when we're brought up. So what you're talking about, and I'm so glad you're bringing this up, is what we as individuals can do. We talk about systemic racism and, the police and the government, but it's what we as individuals can do is start seeing each other as human, as
right,
equal, as someone just like me who has a different shade in their skin.
right. And
That's
that's
it.
and understanding that we all come from our own
Right.
experiences. You know, because of the things I've experienced in life, I'm going to react to something different than you would. But we all start out on the same playing field. And that's all I really ask for from people is acknowledge that one, I'm human, and that Alcee Hastings once gave a speech and he talked about somebody said, well, Alcee, what do you want for the Black community? What do you want? Tell me what you want. And he said, okay, I want you to write down everything you want for your family and sign my name because I want the same thing you want.
Right. Right.
So we all want to be able to move freely without fear of being stopped, beaten, and shot. And now it's gotten to the point where you really have a fear. And when you know that there are people out there and they're emboldened now, I mean, when you think of all the people, and I don't really like the phrase the Karens, but you think of all the people out there that are calling the police on Black people for living life,
Right.
just for living
Well,
life.
Ahmaud Arbery, I go back to that. I go back to a man jogging in his neighborhood, goes into an empty house that's under construction. I do that all the time. Anytime I see a house under construction, oh, what are they doing in the kitchen? Let's see how many bedrooms they have. He walks out and he gets shot with a shotgun.
Okay, isn't that
So
fair?
that had nothing to do with, that doesn't even go to the police. I mean, we're talking about individuals and individual behavior.
Right.
And then the worst part is it's backed up by systemic racism.
Yeah,
And
like you don't believe here, you don't belong here, or even
right,
you have to go to Ahmaud Arbery, the young woman in Wellington, Florida, who was on the golf cart with people, with friends, and this guy drives up and the boys run. I mean, I was like, oh, that's great of them. But, so a young black girl, her white friend, they're walking, he starts yelling at the black girl that she doesn't belong there. What are you even doing in this neighborhood? You don't belong here. She goes in the house and gets her her grandfather, and comes out. Well, it so happens the man works for the U.S. Citizens and Immigrations Department, I believe, or he did, because I think they let him go after that video went viral. But just stuff like that. How do you say somebody doesn't belong there? How do you know?
right. In 2020,
Yeah,
in
they belong
2020,
wherever they are. I mean,
right.
they weren't committing any crimes. They were just walking. They were on the golf cart. You say they weren't supposed to be on the golf cart in the neighborhood. Okay, well, she wasn't driving the golf cart.
And
So
she was the only one that was yelled at.
yes. So things of that nature.
That's
Or
all
the
human to human.
the young men that were in the building, in the gym, in the building where their office was, and the white gentleman comes in and starts questioning them about why they're there in the gym and everything. They're like, the same reason you're here, to work out. Well, do you live here, or do you have they're like, our business, we have a business here. Do you? And stuff. So he no longer has office in that building. But so it's good to see that employers and people are taking action
Yeah.
when they see those things happening. Or the woman, I just saw a video of the woman who questioned the census worker
Oh, I
about
didn't see that one.
why he was in front of her neighbor's front yard. And she was gonna call the police, and he was like, "Okay." She said, "Well, he's black, and he said I'm 5'7", and I weigh. If you're gonna give my description, let's make sure you get a correct description,
Right.
so I
Right.
don't want you stopped and And so when I say remember I said about Brandeis, I just made me think about there was a young black man that was arrested. A student in Brandeis was arrested for breaking into some of the rooms. So the newspaper, this campus newspaper, wrote a story that said that he was arrested and that a young black woman, approximately 5'7", with afro, was seen with him believed to have been casing the rooms over the break. Well, the majority of the black female students at Brandeis at the time were around 5'7", and we wore afro.
Afros.
So you have implicated basically every black woman here on campus.
Yeah.
And we wanted an apology. That's all we asked for, is an apology and, something so that we don't get stared at like crazy when we're walking around campus, because everybody wondering, is that the one? Is that the one? And we couldn't get it. So, I mean, those are the kind of things I think people don't think about when they're doing stuff, because we get into such a routine when we're doing things, and we just fall back on what we know.
Right.
And it's very difficult, I think, it's difficult to change the way you think, and especially the way you brought up. I think one of the things that everyone could do is start listening. But I'm gonna be very honest with you, Trish. Most of my friends, when we talk, we tired.
I'm sure.
We tired of having to explain it. We really are.
I
You
can get
know,
that.
it's like, okay, because we feel it's always us that have to, you
Do
know,
the educating, do the telling, do the it's like, hello, I get it. I get it. I'll tell you that I have people that I have invited onto the show, and they've said that to me. I'm done educating white people. I've been doing it my whole life, and
yeah,
I'm tired. So
right.
I hear you, my friend.
Yeah, we
I
are
hear you.
tired,
I
and
hear you.
we really just want to be left alone and let
And
live our lives.
exactly, exactly. I thank you so much for sharing what you've shared, because again, I have to say that you can't see what you don't see. And
Right.
even the little things that white people do, like when you turn around behind you and there's a black man behind you, your first inclination is to cross the street. If it was a white man, you wouldn't necessarily feel that way. You might, I'm not saying that you wouldn't, but the color of the skin is so ingrained in us, our
Yes.
socialization,
Yes.
that we don't even understand that those little things are racist. And we call ourselves, I'm not a racist. We are, get it. We were socialized as
Right.
white. When you're socialized as white, there's no way you cannot have any racism in you. I do, and I'm here every week learning and talking. I'm here reading books. I'm here holding the flag, and I know that those instincts are still in me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate you being here and just sharing your experience, because the more that we can listen with an open heart and an open mind, and you said it, it's about listening.
Yes, it is. It's
It's
about
about listening. So thank you very much for being here. I
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Another thing I think is it's about observing what's going on around you. And when you see something, they say about crime, if you see something, say something.
Mhm.
Well, you got to speak up. It's no longer okay to be silent when you see discrimination going on. You've got to be willing to speak up, take a chance, risk it.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. Agreed. And it's not always easy. I always, You know, my father-in-law was born to a different generation. And the first time I heard him say something racist, I said something. I said, "We don't talk like that, old man." That's actually what I said. I was so pissed. I was like, "We don't say those things, old man. That's not the way we think in this." And this was probably 2015. It wasn't a long time ago. And everybody in the car looked at me like, "Whoa, whoa, somebody said something."
Right.
Somebody has to say something, and that somebody is you. This is our opportunity to change the way things are, one small comment at a time. So my husband too, my husband recently let go of a friendship because the man could not stop saying racist things. They've been friends for 30 years. And he
Yeah.
said, even if you feel that way, have enough respect for me not to speak like that.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't let go of it because he too is so ingrained. And I let go. You
Yeah.
got to let go. It's okay to let go of people who have that kind of, I can only say I don't know if hate is the right word because it's very strong, but that kind of values around other human beings.
Right. And the other thing is because when you don't let go, we don't think that it's okay with you because
Right?
that's how you feel too.
Exactly. Well, if it's not okay with you, say something.
Exactly.
And you can say something in a sweet way. You don't have to be like I was with my father-in-law. I was like, what? That's not acceptable. You know, you can say that's not acceptable language and I don't speak that way. Have respect enough for me not to use that kind of language around me.
And you can ask them question. You can ask them a question. Why do you say that? Why do you think like that?
Right.
You know, and start a conversation with them because when you tell people don't say that, they get defensive.
Right.
And so, you say, well, I don't feel that way. Why do you?
That's good. That's what my husband does. He's really good at it. He's a handyman. So he goes into people's houses all the time and he sees people at who they are. And he does that. He'll start a conversation with, why do you think like that? And how come you believe this? And
Yeah.
so,
So
yeah, that's the way to do it.
talking about it. And then you might say something and plant a seed. You might not change them right there, but you might plant a seed. But when you come at them attacking them, they're just gonna shut down.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You're absolutely right.
No problem. But
Thank
thank you
you.
for having me on. I
My
appreciate
pleasure. And I know we could go all day between the two of us. We're very like-minded in the way we think. So I know we could go all day. I want to thank everybody for being with us today. And I really appreciate you listening. I appreciate you sharing. And together we can all be the change that we wish to see in the world. And that's what all of this is about. Thank you, Lynn Whitfield, for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you again next week on another Sister to Sister.
Bye-bye.
All right, we dropped that. It's good.
Okay.